Welcome to the Nourishment Mindset podcast, your guide to good food, good health, and a good life. And now, here's your host, Nutrition Network advisor and author of the Nourishment Mindset, Dixie Huey.
Happy Transformation Tuesday, y'all. Welcome to or back to the Nourishment Mindset podcast, where we are all about real food, straight talk, and the pleasures of the table. Today's episode features an interview that I did with Craig Lane of Health Alkemy. But before we get into that, I have a few items to discuss. So, number one, I want to thank Michael Sisley for his 5-star Amazon review. Michael, thank you so much. He is out of North Carolina, y'all. I did not know him before writing my book, but he bought a personal copy as well as a number of other copies for his psychotherapy practice. So that just means so much to me. So here's what Michael has to say. Like she is sitting down with you and sharing her story. On one hand, she covers a lot in this small book, yet it is packed with her experience and wisdom, along with a good bit of knowledge she has accumulated along the way. There's enough science without it being too scientific. There's a good practical considerations. And what I particularly like is that it is, as the title says, a mindset. How you think about food and food products and exploring your relationship with food and food products. I like the idea of a mindset or a lifestyle rather than a diet. Now, this is me adding this in, but I always say, y'all, that diet rhymes with riot. Okay, that's why we don't do those here. He continues, though I would say you can't spell diet without die. I will agree with the riot association with diet. And Michael, thank you. I had not even thought about the die being in there. So there's another very important reason not to focus on restrictive diets. She is not offering some rigid regime or rules, but rather guidelines and considerations, gently but firmly steering you in the right direction. She makes it pretty darn simple, y'all. Thanks for the y'all, Michael. Southerners, yes. But without insulting your intelligence and without making you feel like she has left out something important. Again, thank you so much, Michael. Michael and I are going to be doing a complimentary health consult, which is something that I would be happy to offer any of you if you simply go onto Amazon and rate the book. Or if you'd like to rate the podcast, same thing goes. In either circumstance, I just ask that you let me know, as we content creators do not receive any kind of notification when a review comes in. How do you do that? You can contact me at any of the social media sites. I'm Nourishment Mindset on Instagram. I'm Dixie Huey on LinkedIn. Or you can just send me a good old-fashioned email. That is favor, F-A-V-O-R, fat, F-A-T, favorfat at gmail.com. So again, thank you so much, Michael. And I also want to remind y'all about a gifting program that I have going on here at the holidays. If you would like, I can help you with your holiday gifting. For example, for someone else, I am being mailed 20 copies of this person's holiday card, and I am going to be putting them inside of signed copies for each of her recipients, and then complimentary shipping them for her with some tasteful holiday decor. So if you would like me to help you with your holiday gifting, I would be absolutely happy to do so, and there is no upcharge for doing that. So just get in touch with me again, any of the ways that I said a moment ago. Before we dive into Craig's Health Alkemy episode with me, there are two other things I want to talk about. One of those is the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Conflicts of Interest. Did I say that out loud? I mean public health, excuse me. Has just published a study that says that red meat causes type 2 diabetes. Oh my goodness. Let the fear-mongering begin. There's a lot wrong with this study other than being clearly ridiculous. Let's talk about why. So there is a wonderful content creator called Diana Rogers. Her site is Sustainable Dish. She has an article that I will link here that I highly recommend. It's called 4 Reasons Why Red Meat Doesn't Cause Type 2 Diabetes. So rather than read her article to you, I'm just going to put it in the show notes. If you're one of my subscribers on Favorite Fat at substack.com, then you will see this already, but you should check out her Sustainable Dish. I'm just going to give you my download on it. First of all, it's evolutionarily ridiculous. we are clearly omnivores. Some people maintain that we can be carnivores, and there's plenty of evidence to suggest that that works. The problem with all of these types of studies is that they're correlational and they're based on really shoddy data. I hesitate to even call it data, but let's just say I were to design a study, and I'm going to go back 5 years and ask you how many times you ate pears, pepperoni, pizza, hot dogs, and you're going to recall this stuff because we know that we're all very accurate in going back in the past and recalling what we have eaten, and then I will decide that certain things cause cancer. So this is not a way to show causation of any type. This is a correlational design. That's all it can show. And it's absolutely ridiculous to ask people for food recalls back into the very distant past. So no, red meat does not cause diabetes. Perhaps the bun and the French fries fried in horrendous, toxic, inflammatory seed oils like soybean oil. Sure, I think we might have a correlation there, but it is not the red meat. So y'all, please eat your red meat. And please check out the work of both Diana Rogers as well as Nina Teicholz. She endorsed my book, and I am forever grateful. Her book, The Big Fat Surprise, changed my life. So much so that my top 3 health foods for y'all, if you have read my book, you will know. If you haven't, I'm going to go ahead and spoiler alert here. Beef, butter, and eggs. Yes, all of these animal products that have incredible amounts of nutrients. They are not only good for your body, they are so good for your brain. So do not avoid red meat, please. If you want to do something regarding red meat other than eat it, buy meat that is sustainably raised. Cows on pastures, how they are meant to be, grass-fed, grass-finished, organic if you can afford it. But do not worry your pretty little heads about red meat and diabetes. That's BS. Now, I'm going to start doing something new. This is the first episode. I kind of can't believe I haven't been doing this all along. But in honor of the T.H. Chan School of Conflicts of Interest in Nutrition and Public Health, I am going to start offering a recipe. In today's recipe, any ideas as to what the primary ingredient might be? Yes, it's beef. This is such a simple recipe for y'all. It is Dixie's cheeseburger casserole. So here's how you make it. It's super simple. Get to browning that grass-fed meat. While you're doing that, you can put in some onions. You can put in whatever kind of spices you might like. Just brown that stuff. While you're doing that, pick some vegetables out of your fridge. Wash those suckers. Cut them up into rather small pieces. Line the bottom of a baking dish with said vegetables. Again, your choice, whatever you have lying around. Then you're going to pour that brown meat with the onions and spices and all that good stuff, including, yes, the evil fat that we were all told to avoid. You're going to pour that in there. And then if you like cheese, you could just do a burger casserole. What I do is I slice cheese and then I lay it atop. And then again, if you like any kind of seasoning, you know that I'm a fan of pluck. These are organ meats ground up, salt, whatever kind of herbs. You can also add some olives in there. You can add some tomatoes on top. Just get creative. Whatever you want to do, just make sure you brown the meat beforehand. Then you're going to stick that in the oven on 375 for 20-ish minutes. You want to check it. My favorite veggies to put in there are bell peppers, zucchini, that kind of thing. Absolutely delicious. All you have to clean up is that baking dish after everyone in your family annihilates the cheeseburger casserole, and then of course rinsing out that pan where you brown the meat, and that's it. Dinner is served in about 30 minutes, most of which you can be doing something else like listening to the Nourishment Mindset podcast. Okay. All right. So that is going to be a wrap. We're going to go ahead and dive into Craig's Health Alchemy episode where he interviews me. I hope y'all have a fabulous Tuesday. Santé, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, we're here with Dixie Huey, and this is Craig Lane with Health Alchemy, an entity that has multiple branches into different parts of the world. But we'll just say for now that welcome to my podcast / YouTube, Rumble, whatevers. And my mission here is really to promote the laws of nature and the undeniable facts that you might disagree with the laws of nature, but they can't be, bypassed. I know I've had my slamming against the wall of reality throughout my life, but what we're really here, the intention of us sitting here today is to offer our experience. Like my lifelong inquiry is, what is health? What is health really? Because the Webster's dictionary definition is kind of pathetic. It means the absence of symptoms. Talk about a low ball value, like shit. So Dixie has a book called The Nourishment Mindset, and she's gone through wine and food service and had a child. And so, Dixie's been through it enough. And I met her on SeleneRiverPress.com. And I met her through Stephanie Anderson, the wife of Mark Anderson, and the Standard Process kind of lineage, I'll call it. And I was immediately struck by this nourishment mindset, because it's a word I use as associated with nutrition. Nourishment means you're getting what you need. And so on that note, Dixie, welcome to our program here.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here, and shout out to Stephanie for bringing us together. That's what it's all about, community.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. And so I'm in Santa Cruz, California, and Dixie's out in Naples, Florida. So we're on polar opposite sides of the country. And I grew up in the Santa Cruz surf scene out here. So we got the surfer lingo and hey dude and cowabunga and all that stuff, out here. And so you got to have a little. So I'm here to have fun with health, because the word health to me, it's in my book that I wrote years ago. What is health? Well, health is wholeness. Health to me means the same thing as yoga. It means your body, your mind, your spirit is all here in the present moment together to be present with life. So, it's a higher standard than absence of symptoms, I believe. But what would health be to you, Dixie?
Oh, it's a huge question. Can I just say I really like your definition? I'm just kidding. Like she doesn't mean that. Believe me, she has something she wants to say. But I love your definition. And I agree that the absence of symptoms is pathetic. Like that just sounds very like light gray. To me, health is vibrant. Health is like a beautiful sunset or sunrise. It is not a muted gray. It is myriad of color. And health to me, really, in one word, is vitality. That's what I want. Vitality.
Are you familiar with the root cause protocol, Morley Robbins? Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
So Morley has this thing about energy, and he says, everything boils down to vitality and energy. If you don't have energy, you can't get your goals done. Your immune system doesn't work well. You can't make energy in your cells. So if your cells are tired, you're going to be tired, And so I just love Morley's premise of, how he's looking at things.
Me too. It's brilliant. I've done several of their webinars just to learn. That I feel like that is a tremendous source of learning there.
Well, the top of his mineral hierarchy, if he puts he was asked directly, what's your number one mineral to focus on? And what do you think, Dixie?
Loaded question. I'm just going to go with the first thing that comes to mind. And
Okay.
it's probably wrong, but I'm going to say magnesium.
That's second. Copper was first.
Oh, yes, of course. I should know that studying them. And like, it's not talked about at all. Magnesium is in the forefront, right? So it's.
Yeah, and that, so health, we can go down to this fractal universe and go down into our cells, which I call mini me's, right? Or each of our cells is a universe in and of itself. And you could say, our cells are sort of listening to the, we were talking in our last talk about, the way we make decisions. And I like to say, so I'm going to ask your perspective on this in a second is, so our cells are, I got a wind of this about 25 years ago when I reached for a bottle of cheaper sesame oil versus the raw one. And my cells literally went like that to me. I'm in the health food store reaching for it. And it's like, muscle testing. My body's like, eh. Then I go to reach for the raw one. My body's like, yay, yippee. And I met fast forward 25 years, I realized my cells were listening to the captain making bad decisions because we're mostly microbes, 1,000 to 1 at least. Our own cells are outnumbered. And, so Dixie, we have all these things living in us that have to eat and shit or eat and poop. And,
That's right, gut.
And so we're the captain of the bug ship. So welcome, Dixie, captain of the Dixie bug ship. I'm Craig, captain of the Craig bug ship. The good bug ship lollipop,
Right. What you see is just like a Halloween costume, right? So this is kind of how I'm presenting myself on this earth. But within me are the millions of all kind of stuff. We don't know. I don't know what's in there, but I do know I need to feed it.
So, what aroused your passion to get into health? Like what was one of the key moments for you?
Sickness. I was a vibrant child filled with energy. My brothers would say bossy, but just a joyous child. And I became obsessed with ballet. That's what I was going to do with my life, is be a professional ballerina. And you're not talking me out of it. I got myself into an art school, North Carolina School of the Arts. But the big problem was I don't have what is called like a ballet body. The microbes in the cells were like, yeah, no, that's no. I have more of a muscular, curvy physique, it turns out. But I was not going to be deterred by genetics and all of my cells. I would just starve myself into the ballet body. So that's what I did. And I became extraordinarily sick. I cannot say that I almost died, but I was not so far from it. Routinely passing out. What started as anorexia, I'm basically a failed anorexic. Your brain really wants food and nourishment, as you know. And so the failed anorexic becomes a bulimic because you give in. I didn't realize that this was all driven by my brain. I just thought I had no willpower. Mm-hmm. So I would binge, and not on steak and butter, of course, on just junk. And then I would purge. But it turned out that I was not good at throwing up. I just could not figure out how to pull the trigger rather. So I became what I call in my book a butt bulimic. So wow. I use laxatives. And this is a testament to I can't even believe I'm here, because like any addiction, you need more, mm-hmm. right? So I went like 2 laxatives the first time. Did the trick, right? I lost about 4 pounds. But it became quickly about 4 packs. So that's 96 laxatives. So I was routinely each night swallowing 100 laxatives, and somehow I'm not dead. Yeah. I wonder what you would have seen in the whites of my eyes. I think the whites of my eyes were blue because my chosen drug was X-Lax, and that's coated with that blue dye. So that's a long-winded way. So how did you get into health? Well, you can imagine how ill I was. You don't even know how ill you are when you're that sick. And it was actually ballet, paradoxically, that saved me. I got invited to this invitation only, like 4-person summer experience with a professional ballerina. who was with the North Carolina Dance Theater. And I got there, and within like 2 days, we were living at her house, ballet all day. She's like, I'm on to you. Like, what's up with this like lettuce with mustard? Like, that's not eating. You need to eat. I was like, oh, I can't eat. I'm going to be fat. She's like, well, if you will go home. So here's your thing. You either go home, because I know what you're doing in the toilet, and I don't like that. You either go home or you do exactly what I do. So I'm like, well, she's a badass. I'm going to do what she does. She's like the prima ballerina. That's who I want to be when I grow up. So I ate what she ate, and she made us lift weights, which was extraordinary. No one's ever heard of a ballerina lifting weights. I'm sure they do now, but back in the early 90s, no way. And what happened is, because she made me nourish myself, and she wasn't like the 200-pound nurse at the pediatrician that my dad dragged me to that told me I needed to eat 2,000 calories a day. Like, I'm sorry, an obese woman telling a ballerina who wants to be anorexic for her job to eat 2,000 calories a day when I'm eating maybe 400, like, yeah, to end up like you, I don't think, thanks for your health advice. So anywho, I did what this ballerina told me to do, and something cool happened. My brain changed. All of a sudden, I started to feel like myself again. And I wanted to like go for a jog. And then I started to put on muscle. And then I grew boobs and got my period. And then I realized, like, because I'm 16 at the time, so I should have been mature. And I realized, okay, I got a choice here. I can do ballet and be sick and maybe dead, or I can quit ballet. So I quit, and it sucked, but I lived. So there you go. And that was my first, like, it was absolute to me. Like, health, what we talked about. What is health? Health is vitality. Health is, what, your definition is not the absence of symptoms. Like, I felt like living again, because I don't think I really wanted to live. I really didn't care if I died. I just didn't want to weigh 100 pounds. That was like the kiss of death. So all of a sudden I got myself back, and I was like, oh my God, food healed me. Like, you can't unsee that. So there it is. That's why I got into health.
Did you have the distorted self-image also?
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a picture, I'm not sure, back in front of my book, I don't know. But I show a picture of myself now, what I'm supposed to look like when, genes plus lifestyle. And then I show what I call the fat ballerina, and it's circa 1992. And it's a picture that was taken of me as I was trying to get into the North Carolina School of the Arts. And I really thought I was fat there. And it's like this chick with skin and bones. I mean, I was around 100 pounds. I was 5'4" or 5. What's really cool is, because I started eating again before I finished growing, I was able to eke out 3 more inches in, like, it was crazy, in like a year. So I went from 5'4" to 5'7". And we don't find that crazy now, because, like, yeah, you were eating, you need protein, you need food, like you have to fuel your cells.
Right.
But I thought it was pretty extraordinary at the time. And I did think I was fat at 100 pounds. Yeah. I felt fat. That was I didn't realize that till many years later. It dawned on me after a very rough breakup in San Francisco in my mid-20s. The dude said, I love you, I'm not in love with you. And I very much appreciate him, because he, knew we were not meant to be together, but that's not what I thought at the time. Right. And I was a triathlete at the time, very healthy, vibrant person, and cried myself to sleep. And I woke up, and the first thought in my head, this is the eating disorder still in the brain, was, oh my God, I'm fat. I bet my pants aren't gonna fit. Like, where does that, what do you mean your pants aren't gonna fit? Like, and I realized I'm fat means I'm sad. It's easier to be fat than be sad, because if you're fat, you can just like not eat or exercise excessively to the point of injury. You can do all kind of stuff with I'm fat, but I'm sad, that just sucks. That's time and therapy. So So that was my coping mechanism. It wasn't, ballet was, I had a reason to be skinny, but the real thing going on was traumatic divorce between my parents. So that was the I'm sad as a child. So when I realized that, whoa, like that breaks the cycle. Finally.
You have the attributes of someone that, generally the entitled healers that grow up with a trust fund, they don't end up becoming very good healers because they haven't suffered. They can't empathize with suffering. And I was an overeater myself. Like, I would be planning my next meal as I was eating. So that's the way I stuffed my emotions, was to keep eating when I was sad.
Yes.
So you had the opposite, right? You had the opposite, though. You would deny that and not eat because you're fat.
Yes, I was fat in my head. And again, 3 digits, totally unacceptable.
Oh, man. So then there was a question I had written down that now applies. And so I talk about, a house has to have a strong foundation. Everybody knows that. You can't put a house on a weak foundation. It's going to fall down. So in health, I have the 4 foundations of health, and it's like 4 pillars. And the first one is what I call your choice maker, or your chooser, which determines your blood sugar, because I call insulin a primary hormone because we can control it through our choices, right? And so you could say then, I guess you had a broken choice maker.
Yes, for a variety of reasons, emotional trauma. Also, being a kid, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea of the impact of what I was doing to myself. Teenager, I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah.
But that's the capitalism of health, right? If you're a sinister mofo, like, I got the sinister mind, I can understand why they do what they do. So, let's dumb them down from birth. We'll vaccinate the heck out of them. We'll tell them, my mother believed that formula was better than breast milk, so I was never breastfed. My mother and her sisters were talked into formula from their doctors.
It's so sad.
Right? I mean, it's like, talk about not nourishment. The first thing you put in a child's belly is soy formula with sugar and chemicals. Like, really?
Hey, Mom, by the way, if you're out there listening, thank you for breastfeeding me.
Bless you, Mother.
She went against the grain back then. Because it was healthier to know how much they're getting or whatever shit was sold. But yeah, she believed that was BS. So
so the choice maker then is, like you were saying it earlier, like we run around in this fog and we don't know we're in a fog.
No.
Right? Like you said, you wake up out of it and you go, wait, what was I doing? Oh my God, look what I was doing. And I was asleep at the wheel.
Like a light switch, really.
Right. So currently then, do you have any, I asked pretty, personal questions because I'm interested in depth.
Right.
So
why ask surface level softballs? I want a fastball.
You've seen my app, I'm pretty let's get right to the core thing here. So what do you think your current triggers are then? I know my triggers pretty well. Like, okay, I'm going to go to my coffee trigger, or I love cannabis. So I'll take a big giant bong hit and, oh boy, now I'm good, So what are your triggers you think that kind of bring you back to a food choice triggered, or do you even have that anymore?
That's a good question. The first thing I thought of is, man, I just need to get into weed. I've never I've dallianced around. I'm lazy. The last time I smoked weed was I was helping my yoga teacher, who I just love and adore. with her iPad. And she's like, let me pay you, dear. And I'm like, no, you're not paying me. Like this, I'm a friend. Like, it's cool. I've learned so much from you. And she's like, well, at least let me give you a joint. I'm like, fine. Like, but there's no active seeking. I feel like I should get into that. Anyway, that's avoiding the question. What are your triggers? I am thrilled to say that I don't struggle with disordered eating in any form or fashion. And I think that is so rare. Like, I thank the higher power for that all the time. Like, I love food. I think that's part of it. So here's like, let's talk about how I got there. How do you go from like a butt bulimic, anorexic, confused person to someone who loves food and no longer, because a lot of people tell you, well, if you've had an eating disorder, you're never going to get better. And unfortunately, that is the case. But I credit this dancer with helping that light switch. But I also worked in the food and wine industry for 20 years. And the love of food, that's how I learned to love food, was in Europe, really. I mean, my mom brought us to Italy when I was 16, and I couldn't bring my laxatives, so I had to and then I started to, like, the first time I tasted like Italian tomato and olive oil, like it was like this, high without the weed, cannabis, excuse me. And it more light switch, and so flavor, like I had never appreciated food. And I think because I spent so much time around people who were so mindful, this is in California, Oregon, Washington, so West Coast hippie all the way, so into food and exposed to people all over the world, chefs, farmers, winemakers. So the best moments of my life, a lot of them are around a table and sharing food and wine with people. And so I don't feel like you can love food that much. Maybe you can and have like a disordered relationship with it. But I think when I started to appreciate what is nourishment, if you properly nourish yourself, when you eat, and when you're done, you're done. You just don't have, I'm not like thinking about cookies. Now, that being said, last night, after my kid's baseball game, as a family, we decided he loves to make chocolate chip cookies. And, I have all these fun ingredients. I'm not going to deny my child baking. So I had freaking chocolate chip cookies last night. And guess what? I'm allergic to wheat. So I don't know. Was I triggered? No, we were having fun. Do I do that more than once a month? No. So it's balance, right? The French call it équilibre, balance. And I living and spending time in France has profoundly influenced the way I think about food and nourishment. So I think that's part of it too. It's a very long answer to the question. I don't have food triggers. This does not mean I still have issues just like every other human being, but not with food. I become bitchy. That's I get all up in my head and I get anxious, and that manifests as like hyper doing stuff. But thankfully it doesn't manifest with eating stuff. It's just like chores and to-do lists.
Yeah, I could relate to what you said. I see the fuse get lit of the trigger, but I can't do what I used to do. Like, so that's where, if you have self-awareness and you can see the trigger within yourself and say, how am I going to process this outside of food, right? And go sit with it versus eat and numb it away. So thank you. I always appreciate a vulnerable answer. And yeah, we all have, psychological triggers and whatnot. But there's this thing that I call mouth entertainment. And it really disarms people. I go, well, you're addicted to mouth entertainment, aren't you? And then once that's thrown at someone, then they can't unsee it. 'Cause I got clients that dream about me giving them advice in dreams. That's how crazy my weird life is. Like, I'm in their dreams, like yelling at them, like, stop doing that, or whatnot. And so when I start to see mouth entertainment guy, then I ask my body, I call it Craig future self veto. So your future self, because I did some shamanic work kind of involuntarily, but I love the Castaneda series, Carlos Castaneda. And so he would say, make death an advisor. Make death your advisor. So I came up with what I called the deathbed game. And all my major decisions are based on my guy on his deathbed. Would I or would I not regret having done or not done this? Because I'm not going to die with regrets. I'm dying clean. And so that's where my future Craig veto comes in. Like, because I saw this at night. I'd stay up late after doing my massage shift late, working on beautiful people, then being single and eating chocolate and eating late and waking up and feeling like shit in the morning. Yeah. And I realized like night guy is fucking over morning guy. Yeah. So I gave morning guy veto. And then it was like, oh, that's self-love. I'm loving my morning guy by not doing the overeating at night. So you see the future self-veto is what helped me of just connecting the consequences to, dude, you're going to get 15 minutes of mouth pleasure from your whatever, then you're going to suffer for 3 days.
Yeah.
Is the 15 minutes of pleasure worth the 3 days of suffering? Absolutely not.
Maybe occasionally.
Well, I'm with you on the cookies. Like my last two health holdouts were Toll House chocolate chip cookies and Nature's Valley hemp plus granola with the little clusters in it.
Oh, the hemp plus. You're so Santa Cruz. I love it. I don't know if they sell that in Florida. Probably not.
They have the little crunchy clusters, you know how that is. And like, oh my God.
Awesome.
So delicious.
No, it's great. You know what so I'm not sitting here. I call it Health Coach Hill. I'm not sitting here on Health Coach Hill saying I got all my shit figured out because I don't. I debated, if people are watching this, I debated not for very long, but I asked myself the question, the cover of my book is this beautiful food board that my wonderful Rachel helped me design. And there's rosé in there. That's a glass of rosé at the top.
Oh.
And I thought, well, this is a little controversial, right? Because like alcohol is inflammatory. And like most health coaches, but I'm a sommelier and I spent 20 years in the wine industry. And I'm like, damn it, that's who I am. So if someone wants to give me shit for having a glass of rosé with my cheese and meat board, charcuterie board, then that's fine. I understand, and so that I would say is my vice would be wine, I'm a sommelier. So usual me, what do you call it? Morning me is like, hey, keep your shit together. You can have a couple, 2, 3 glasses of wine, you'll be fine. Like I realize that's not optimal for health. Sometimes night me wins and my husband and I will open a second bottle. And that's why I said about like occasionally, like sometimes it's fun to break the rules. And that is my personality. I have what my mom would call like a shit-eating grin. Sometimes I just, I break the rules and it's fun, but I have a framework and that's not my norm. I think for me, the framework is critical to just what is my lifestyle? How am I going to live?
So I had a Taoist teacher. He was a Taoist chef. I was learning with Michael Tierra, herbal medicine in the 90s. And this guy's teacher, he was Chinese from San Francisco and he was a professional chef, but his teacher still lived in the mountains of China.
Oh, that is wonderful.
And so this guy had a saying, and I was always trying to be vigilant, and get out of my own way. And then he said to me something that relates to what you just said. He said, Craig, my teacher said this, everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yes, that's attributed, excuse me, if your listeners are watching, I'm the dunce that did not plug my computer in after we did our interview on the Nourishment Mindset podcast. So I don't want to lose battery. So I apologize for the distraction, but I am grabbing my power cord. Apparently computers need nourishment as well.
Oh yes, they need those electrons and protons and all that stuff. Thank you. I've learned the psychology part, because you have the psychology stuff. And so I went into men's work in the 90s and joined the Mankind Project in 2012. And I learned how to facilitate people over the years. And
Okay.
so in that, I realized like, we can process people down to, because I was always a good listener. You know, if you're empathic and you listen, then people, they feel received. Like you women are especially sensitive to this. Most of the
Yes,
women,
we are.
you know, most of the women that come in, I'm the first man that's actually ever listened to them. A lot of them cry because they're like, oh my God, you're actually listening to me. And I'm like, well, I'm available, you know? And so the question would be then, you have this psychology thing. And so what do you do with, like, I view everyone as we're transmitting and receiving, right? So I've done enough body work to see it where if I have 4 low back pain cases, at the end of the day, I have low back pain.
Really?
Yeah, so that's why I do yoga and meditate almost every day, is because I have to process other people's. So this came out of another coach, and you'll love this. He said, Craig, based on your particular configuration, I want you to suspect that anything you're feeling when you're in public as your first assumption is not your own. It's someone else's.
This explains a lot about something that I've been struggling with professionally, which is just the empty cup, or feeling it's hard to, I don't know that it's quite the same thing, but it's one of the reasons I did not go to grad school to become a therapist is because I didn't think that I could keep that distance that you have to do for self-preservation. And I'm finding with some of my clients that it's, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, just honestly, like it's really dragging me down. And so I'm trying to work on figuring out, I need to change my approach. There are skills that I need to build to become a better coach, to where I can be there with them, but I cannot take on their mental anguish. So I don't know if that's what you meant by that, but I'm actively seeking knowledge to help me with this. And I appreciate the discomfort, because only that discomfort will lead me to be a better coach.
Right.
But it is currently challenging. So.
Okay, good. Well, that leads to the next question then. So,
all right.
So in Chinese medicine, they talk about the earth element, and that's usually the digestive organs. And so one of my greatest insights came out of this was that, okay, we digest physically, but we also digest emotionally, psychically, and mentally. And so what I saw happening to me was that in shamanism, a lot of people hand over their stuff to the shaman, and then he digests it for them with a certain consequence, and he or she, and with a certain consequence to them. And I got hundreds of stories of reading about this stuff, like it's crazy. And then I realized, like, oh, that's what my teacher was talking about, like, suspect anything that's not yours. So what is mine? And then I've been meditating long enough to know that, consciousness is like the sky, and clouds are like thoughts. They come, they pass, and they go. They come, they pass, and they go, right? And then it's like, don't get identified with the thoughts was the thing. And what helped me with that was just being quiet every day, doing yoga, and letting it just, letting it cycle. Like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so from today. And oh yeah, that's so-and-so from yesterday. And so the question then, I guess, would be, you're sort of already aware of that process, right? But the question would be, how much of your life do you still think is not yours? That's other people's stuff. And you may not even be aware of it yet, That's the good part.
I don't know if I know how much. I do know that what you just said, mindfulness, yoga, meditation, for a lot of people that might, you're in California, so that's a thing. But, in the South, that sort of sounds like mumbo jumbo, but it's profoundly helpful to me. The quiet time that I insist on, I don't necessarily know, I'll be lying if I said daily, but 5-6 times a week makes a huge difference. And it's not even that big of a time investment, but it's a must for me. Because that's when you can just sit there and, like you said, you likened it to clouds just passing and changing, whatever it is, it's okay. Like, I don't even have to understand it. I think of it a lot like the ocean because I live by the coast. So like in and out, in and out. So humans are like that too. Someone cuts you off in traffic. I could choose to be mad at it. I could choose to flip the bird. That's kind of fun in the moment. But like, do I really need to do that? No. So I think a lot of this work is just what you have said, just like being present. And it's not detachment. I think it's just sort of being present in the space and not necessarily having to react to everything. That's my favorite thing about yoga. Just like be. Just be.
Yeah, so I wanted to add that what I talk about, like people playing music can be this time. People going in the garden could be this time. That non-mystify it. It's not mystical. It's like you said, in the South, you might go gardening. Some guys might go have a quiet solo going hunting with the guys, or
I was gonna say we got like Gun and Garden magazine or whatever. So you nailed it.
Right, so I'm a guy, I hunt flies, around my house. Like
I never thought of myself as a hunter before. Cool. All right. I'm like a roach hunter then. So that's what we got.
See?
Yeah, water bug.
Ooh, cockroaches are gross
right?
anyway. Oh, so here's a funny one. Have you heard of cockroach milk?
No, I haven't, but I could probably make it with all the roaches around here.
The WEF was touting this. I saw it on a blurb that they were touting cockroach milk as a superfood. So wait, here's my joke. Okay, you're gonna love this. So I say, boy, how do you get the little teats onto the cockroach tit?
Yeah.
To milk them. That must be some tiny little, nano milkers,
That's what I say. Now, I don't mean this to people who are lactose intolerant, but I do think to myself, how the hell do you milk an almond? Doesn't make any damn sense.
Well, here's my answer to people that say they're lactose intolerant. I go, well, raw milk has lactase in it.
Bingo, raw milk. Real milk is what I call that.
So the enzyme to digest the raw milk is in the raw milk.
Yeah, but raw milk is dangerous and it'll kill you.
It'll kill you.
That's one of the things that unfortunately it's a 45-minute drive for me, but I can, if y'all are watching this, I'm air quoting, I can go to the wonderful Seed to Table in North Naples and buy real raw milk for pet consumption only.
So you can still get it, but you have to say it's for my pet.
Well, it's for Travis the Newfoundland, yes. And me and my kid and my husband.
That's mind-blowing.
Legislate the important things. That's really important. Keep people from drinking real milk.
Well, that goes back to health capitalism, and you woke up to that too. I had this teacher, Michael Dobbins. Bless you, Michael. Rest in peace. He was a great teacher for standard process, actually, out here on the West Coast in Berkeley. Michael Dobbins, and he said this funny thing about being a healer. He said, okay, client, I don't want all your money. Okay, I just want a little bit of your money for the rest of your life. So he just nailed it, But medicine wants more than a little of your money. They want your soul.
They'll bankrupt you.
Yeah. So we were talking about the clouds going through the sky. So that brings up one of the questions that I wrote it down last night. I wanted to ask you was, so in my world, I call it consciousness airtime. If some person keeps popping in my mind throughout the day, then I realize like they're taking airtime, and maybe I should send them a prayer or call them up, or 9 times out of 10, I commonly go, oh, I was just thinking about you,
Yeah.
So what takes up your airtime at any given point of the day? I'm happy to share mine. It's good, bad, and ugly. It's like, I get horrendously bad thoughts too, which aren't mine. Remember, they're not ours. So what do you think you spend your time chewing on in the moments of the day?
I love this question. It is a great question to really not just answer, but to just be mindful of the question, so thank you for that, because that's something I'm going to take with me after this and just hang out with. So what takes my airtime? So typically when I get up, what would take over if I let it is just the to-do list. I mentioned kind of being anxious. I'm a Daler, Protestant work ethic. But so I circumvent that because, I do believe there are things we humanoids can do. One of the things is not, a lot of people wake up and they do screen rise. Like, I'm not going to be looking at my freaking email right when I wake up. It's dark outside. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go outside in my bare feet, maybe with Travis the Noof, and just hang out outside and look at the gorgeous sunset. So contrast that with what I would be doing. My default program setting is to, start scrolling. What do I got to do? And who did I forget about yesterday? And how am I going to grow this part of my business? So no, I mindfully take morning time, and so it's like, you carve it out for yourself. You got to claw it. And so the first part of my morning is that and the yoga, the meditation, even if it's like 5-10 minutes. I mean, that really to me sets the tone for the day. Like, the morning is mine. And when I'm done with that, then the stuff in my headspace is, frankly, mom stuff. Like, gotta get the kid up, I'm particular about what my dog and my kid eat. So I'm making eggs for both of them in the morning. Packing lunches. And so for a while it's that, and then I'm usually doing some sort of a workout, which I love. I've always been into workouts. And frankly, when I'm working out, I'm not thinking because I'm pushing myself. And so that's a really important thing for me. You want to see me not my best self is me injured and unable to work out because I am addicted to endorphins. So that's nice because I'm not thinking. And when I'm at work, I'm very present at work, but it's, how can I be present for this person, answer their questions, help them take one more step on their health journey. And that's frankly, I spend a lot of my day in that mode because I'm a health coach. And sometimes in that space, the uncomfortable part, the let's get real part is, I question myself. Am I good at this? Am I giving this person what they want? Am I saying this in the right way? A lot of what I'm doing is by text communication. And so you don't have the tone of voice, like phone calls, of course. I do phone calls as well. But, I'm questioning myself. And I don't want that to go away. I don't think that's necessarily unhealthy. But it's part of the challenge of that job, and then the rest of my day after work is done is back to like, we got to go to baseball. We got to go to guitar. What's for dinner? What's the dog eating for dinner? Got to make his beef, yada, yada. So I would like to have the ability to spend more time in that quiet space. And I know that I'm addicted to podcasts, particularly health podcasts. So if I'm like doing laundry or cleaning up or making dinner, I'm typically listening to something, but I'm actively right now making myself have quiet brain time. So folding the laundry without a podcast would be one, just because I realize like there's too much input. This like 10-15 minutes of the morning of input free is great, but like that's not enough in a 24-hour period. And I've noticed that it has helped my sleep very much, but I hope that's what you were asking me, but it's a very small amount of time to not have all the input and all the noise, but that's what I got for you now, Craig. I'm sure I can do better.
Right. And so that's what that voice right there is what I call the internal judge, and everything has a gold and a shadow. So the gold of the judge is it makes us better. the shadow of the judge that can beat us up unnecessarily, right?
Yes.
So, my teacher often said, Adyashanti used to say, when a spiritual seeker comes up to him, the first thing he looks for is their, quote, sincerity to the truth. And you have the markers of someone sincere because you're willing to put yourself in that uncomfortable place voluntarily, My teaching is the more voluntary suffering we take on, the less involuntary suffering we get from life.
Oh, I love that.
Like cleansing is for the ego, like one of my first silent retreats was a 5-day silent retreat, and I was up there in front of 300 people, and he's like, he says, what ego in its right mind is going to sit and stare at a wall for 5 days? He goes, your ego didn't drive you here. It was something deeper, because an ego is going to go on a 5-day vacation to the Bahamas. It's not going to sit in a chair stewing in silence. He's like, so just get that clear that what drove you here wasn't your ego.
Dude, now I've realized I've got to do that. Thanks a lot, man. I want to go to the Bahamas, but now I need to go stare at a wall. You're totally right. I do want to add one thing. I left out the most important part of my day, and that's dinner. Dinner is really important to me. I also eat lunch. But dinner is where, ideally we're sitting down together, or if I happen to be alone, but it is a moment of pause, and it is a time to be present. And I think that the tableside traditions and the pleasure and the gratitude you can take in nourishing yourself, that is the highlight of my day.
Thank you for saying that, because my mother's mother was a nutritionist, not more of the synthetic vitamin kind of nutritionist, but the center of their home was the kitchen. Everything revolved around the kitchen. And what's the center of the current American's home? What do you think?
The TV.
The TV and computer.
Tablet.
Right? And the tablet, right. So, but that's part of, again, it's part, like you kind of got onto that, like, if you're even semi-aware of, because in yin and yang, if you look at, like, here's how the Buddhists would look at this, like, if you have a lot of input, then you need to have time to rest. Activity and rest are a duality.
Totally.
That's what I heard you saying, was you're aware that you need a little less input and a little more, just rest time.
Dude, that's the story of my life. You said earlier, surfer, dude. I love dude. As someone said to me once, wait a minute, you just called your mom dude. And I'm like, yeah, everybody's dude. Yes, that if left to its own devices, my brain would just go all day long. And I think the root cause of anything that is suboptimal with me is just that overactive brain. It can be a gift and it can be a curse. It's both. It's the yin and the yang, but I have to actively pursue calm and quiet. And that is my biggest takeaway from yoga and meditation is, do nothing. Southerners do this. They sit on the porch and they watch cars go by in small towns.
Right.
And like people would make fun of that, right? Look at those rednecks. What are they doing? They're actually what they call it setting, settin, setting. Setting is actually just being present in the moment. It's actually, I think it's very good. But it's our culture that it's like to-do lists. Children now have like 3 and 4 activities a day. And it's mayhem. And that is another thing, I will credit my friends in the wine industry. They are so good at just gathering around a meal and just talking and laughing. And like, you got to have that.
Right. Well, so here's the thing about meditation to non-mystify it is, my teacher had a great, very honest kind of guy. He said, I failed at meditation in the parameter of a quiet mind. He said, I failed miserably. My mind would never be quiet. So you could understand that. So I tell people, like, I'm the same way. Like, even when I'm meditating, there's usually a little something going on in the background. Even after a half hour, it's like, so I just can't turn the thing off. So guess how you make your mind slow down, though? By being okay with a busy mind.
Yes. It's like those clouds, right? It's okay.
it's the resistance of the monkey mind that makes the monkey mind more active. It's kind of like, you know, the more
Absolutely.
energy you feed into resisting it, the stronger it gets.
Oh, I was afraid to meditate. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. You want me to sit still for 5 minutes? Like, I'm Tigger. I'm not sitting anywhere. I don't even sit. But it's exactly what I needed.
At age 25, my first meditation, within the first 5 minutes, I realized how insane my mind was, and I got scared. Like, to your point. It was like, I have thoughts upon thoughts upon thoughts. You can relate. Like, one thought would end, there'd be another two still spinning behind that one. And it's like, God, where's the quiet? It's like buried under all these layers of thinking, you know?
Yeah.
So were you aware at all as a teenager or when you were younger that food was affecting your consciousness for good or bad? Were you aware of that or at all, or?
No, as a kid, not at all. I think that the realization was that story I told when I was with that prima ballerina and she made me eat. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, where have I been the last 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you know, first times, like I have poor vision, you know, the first time you put on glasses or contacts and you're blown away that there's so much clarity. So that's what it was like for me. It was like waking up. But no, I had no concept of what that was before.
I had this weird, like, I would drink like Cokes as a teenager, and I had Jolly Ranchers and Cheetos,
Oh, yeah.
and Cokes and candy, and I had some inkling that maybe it's kind of like a tiny little voice, and there's 10,000 other stronger voices over the top of it. It's kind of when I look back now, I was like, God. And in my case, I was talking to spirits when I was 4. My mother told me to stop, and so I sold out my sensitive side to fit into the world at a young age. And that went underground until age 39. It kept hammering at me, but I didn't know what it was until I had my final awakening at 39. And my invisible friends came back in this silent retreat. And the how I sold myself out, like, to fit in with the adults as a child to feel safe. Like, I can't talk about things I see because people will think I'm crazy and they put me in a straitjacket.
That had to be really painful to I want to say re-see, but like reawaken. I mean, were you like, oh my gosh, was that scary? Or was it like, okay, it's okay. Like, it's back. It's part of who I am. Like, what do you do with that? That seems.
So I woke up at age 25. I told you about that. Then I spent 14 years seeking. And then at 39, I was at another silent retreat. I'd done probably at least 20 or 30 over those 14 years because I wanted to know for myself what enlightenment was. I wasn't going to take anybody's word for it. What is this thing? And then at 39, I'm with a girlfriend. And so we're sharing a room in silent retreat. So you talk about a weird, like, you get done with the silent retreat at the end of the day, and and she was always enforcing the rules, and I always wanted to break the rules. Let's talk.
And I'm like, did y'all cheat? You know you did.
I wanted to, but she held my butt to the iron. So bless Carolyn Vitale for that. And but on day 2 of the retreat, I had that experience where it was like something cracked over my head, and this part of me just broke open right here. And then this memory rushed in, and I had 3 days of laughing uncontrollably and crying uncontrollably because I felt like I had wasted 35 years of my life. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so on one hand, that's so painful. And on the other hand, it's like, I'm back. Like,
right.
Oh.
So so as a child, you can understand that the adults are the authorities and I need to fit into their world. But everything I knew as a child, I used to wish that I could be my own parent. So now I go back to, I did the other night, I was meditating and my 5-year-old came up from something that triggered me. And I told him, I go, remember how you wished you could become the man that you wished could be your father? Well, I'm that guy now. And I'm sending you that validation that you were right.
Yeah.
That you were right. And it's okay that you had to sell out to be safe.
Absolutely. Those are protective mechanisms. It is very sad what we as a society sometimes label as crazy or scary. It's just too uncomfortable for most people, sometimes myself included, to accept, but it's unfortunate. You know, I think of like my mother and I were discussing this, like the witches, you know, witches.
Mhm.
These are just women that didn't agree with shit back in the day. So we got to burn them. But we do that as humans. We
Gotta burn 'em.
want things to make sense and to be black and white. And my whole thing is the whole world is gray. Everything is gray. You know, you can look at, you know, from mental health to sexuality to, I mean, you just name it. Like there is no, we want there to be, but you just, to me, you got to get comfortable with the fact that it's uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Okay, so I got another question. Maybe we're probably getting close to the wind down time. Time just passes so fast when I give these conversations. So you have a child, and I saw myself as I was here to overcome what my parents couldn't. So is there anything you wish for your child that you or your family lineage or your husband's couldn't overcome, that you've taught him or already taught him or will teach him? Like, what do you think that in your lineage, like what are you advising your child on, you know?
Actively. So I think that Patrick and I, our role as Fletcher's parents is to honor the being that he is. That sounds so okay, hippie lady who's been
West Coast up there.
West Coast, woo! But like, I really believe that. And it's just, you know, sure, there are things, you know, that you've got a framework that we enforce is such a tough word, but they're just things. He's got to be polite. But he has a lot of freedom within that framework to be who he is. And I've always, I will answer his questions. So I think that's a big one. Like, I will answer him straight up. And sometimes the kids' questions are not comfortable, but I'm not going to lie to my kid. I may not give him the entire context of everything. And some would say, well, you know, I've been criticized. Will you treat him like an adult? And it's like, I want him to, I'm not like trying to spoil his childhood, but I just think children, it's interesting, right? Like, to me, they know way more than anyone thinks. Kids, like what you were saying.
Right.
And I don't want to squash that. And I don't want to pretend like that's not there just because he doesn't have an adult body. Like he does. I mean, he knows things that I don't know. And I just want to be okay with that. So I realize that's maybe not a clear-cut answer, but I don't want to put him in some box. And so when I grew up, and I do appreciate this, like education was very, very important, particularly to my mom, but to both parents. She did all the work though, to the point where it was frankly somewhat overwhelming at times. You know, must get all A's, must take all hard classes, you know, just lots and lots of pressure. I think for me, that's another thing that's maybe more specific. Like I will not put that pressure on him. So, for example, it was very important in my family that you get into the best college you can go to, and you go there. And I appreciate that. Like, I had a wonderful college experience, but I'm not going to raise my kid that way. And I also think college is really different now. So I actually maybe hope he either doesn't go to college or goes somewhere abroad. Right. Certainly the not woke USA.
Right.
I honestly want him to follow his heart and his mind, and just, I want to support him becoming who he wants to be. I don't want to have any governors on his soul, if that makes sense. It's my job to like help him become who he wants to be. And if he's not a straight A student, I don't care. I want him to be a person with integrity, you know, so that's what we teach. So the other day he accidentally kind of threw his bat back and it smacked the catcher somewhere. He wasn't hurt. And I could see when he got to first base that he felt awful. The kid had to take a break, whatever. And so I went and found this child's father and introduced myself, and you know, gave him ice packs, water, and I apologized, of course, it was an accident, but I had my son, I got him in the dugout, and I said, I need you to come here. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go meet this child and his father and apologize. And immediately the tears come, and I'm like, I know it's hard, buddy, but you're going to feel so much better after you acknowledge it. And so that, you know, that's another specific example. Like, you're going to go say, I'm sorry, I want you to meet them. I want you to shake the dad's hand. And so we did that. And in the car ride home, he's like, gosh, that family was really nice about that. And the thing that I took away was another mom saying to me, oh, did you like run and hide when that happened? Like, hell no.
No. Right.
No. Talk about bad karma. Hell no, I don't want that.
So what was that lady actually saying
learning
to you, though? I'm going to go run and hide. What's that lady actually telling you? She's telling you that's what she would do, right?
I guess so, but I was shocked, you know. It was like, no, you got to face that. Like, that would be letting my child down. This is a great opportunity for him to learn. I mean, we are going to have shit that we mess up, and we need to take and maybe the other person isn't going to be nice about it like this family was. Then we got to deal with that.
How old's your son?
Soon to be 10.
So, you know, get ready, because in the tribal tradition, that's what I learned through the men's work, is that from age 10 to age 13, the women raised the boys until they were 10 to 13. And then the men took, to the screaming mothers, the men took the boys away for their initiations into the very thing you're talking about, of taking responsibility for your decisions and getting a trial and tribulation of some sort of survival test is what they used. And because the women generally, because women are the creator, the feminine is the creator, and the masculine,
nurture.
Yeah, the destroyer, Shiva, right? It's not destroying things, it's just tearing things down. And so your boy will need more of that masculine authority to, because it's not a good match for a woman at that point to be with a teenage boy. It's not a good match. The men need
I don't know how my mom did it. She
Right?
had two of them.
My mom had me and my brother, and we were master manipulators.
Yeah.
We would talk about how to manipulate mom to get what we wanted.
Of course. Yes. That I said that to my husband this morning. There was a bit of a door slam. I call it kid-tude. Kid-tude erupted again. Door slamming, and my husband got up and was like, you know, all you have to do is look at him. But I'm like, I don't have that superpower. I gave birth, like, I did all the nurturing stuff, and yeah, we're honest, we are, it's the yin and yang, right? Like, I believe in it. It's not to say, it's not like I'm sitting here saying that like a homosexual couple can't raise a family, not that, but I appreciate the beauty of the difference between the female nurturer and the male, like, you need to get your shit straight. You're not slamming the door in this house.
Right.
And I let him do it because I appreciate that, because I did not have that. My dad is a, what would you call it? You would call him a narcissist.
Oh, a narcissist.
Yes. And a closeted gay man, which is how you had to be in the South at that time. So I don't blame him for that. But it created a lot of issues in the family, as you can imagine. But he was married to his work, basically. So that's the other thing. Like, it was super important to me that if I was going to have a kid, that I would do it with like a very incredible father for him, because that's, for a kid to be ignored, rejected by any parents is a big trauma.
Oh.
So.
I just got to say, bless you and your service. I watch a lot of parents. I'm not a parent. I probably could be, but you know, my spiritual teachers, every one of them said the most difficult spiritual job is to be a householder and raise a family. So there you go.
Yeah.
You have chosen a much more difficult spiritual path than I have, because my time is my own, 100%. I can do whatever the heck I want, whenever I want to do it. And you don't get that. I mean, if you're a sincere parent, you don't, you know.
Yeah, no, you don't. And it's we had our son late, I was an advanced age mother, which is why my son pointed out to me in kindergarten. He's like, Mom, how come like you're, just like maybe older than the other? I'm like, yeah, I know, dude. Sorry, I had to get with my career and whatnot. I didn't want to have a kid. That's why he's got an old mom, as I actively didn't want a kid. They're gross. They stink. They mess your life up. I mean, goodness gracious. But I changed my mind. So I will say I've learned more from my son than from anything. It's really, I know that sounds just so cliche.
Okay, I got to ask you one more question about this. So yeah. I've met women who are adamantly opposed to having children, and then they meet that magic guy and some button goes on where they suddenly want to have a kid. Did that happen to you?
That's not what happened to me. So okay. I met my guy when I was 25, and I think, yeah. So, I mean, we were together 10 years before I even got pregnant, because we like being dinks. Like, let's go to Thailand. Let's drink wine and travel the world. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. And I honestly cannot really remember what that feels like. Because once there is a child, like the life just, I don't even remember. That's okay. I'm glad I had that time. But yeah, you're right. There will never be another time where I'm just not a mom. It's a permanent condition.
Was it a planned pregnancy, or was it, like, that's my question though, is were you?
Oh yeah, no. So it's kind of a funny story, actually. It involves alcohol. So excuse me, because it's a healthy amount. We were at a wedding and my mother-in-law was there, and I don't usually drink martinis, but for whatever reason, I decided that it would be a good idea to have 2 martinis. And when you're not used to drinking non-wine, that's a very bad idea. And so I was in the restroom, as women tend to do, the restroom thing together. And I said to my mother-in-law, I think I want to have a baby. She's like, what? And I am going to be honest here. I didn't exactly remember the conversation. And the next morning after the wedding, when we woke up, my husband was like, what's this about you talking about wanting to have a baby with my mother? What the hell? And I was like, I said that out loud. Like, I thought that was my subconscious that I was trying to silence. Like, I can't believe I let that one out.
Oh, shit.
So I called my best friend, who's an OBGYN, when my husband wasn't around. I said, I've been having these feelings, like, and she's like, what do you mean these feelings? I'm like I want a baby. Like, how do I get rid of that? And she just started laughing. She goes, dude, you have baby fever. It's time to buy some stretchy bras and just give up on your figure and just let magic happen. I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, I can't cure that. You're going to be a mom. Like, sorry. I tried to get rid of it.
So I got so many questions. Do you think that maybe the soul plans their, like maybe you're already aware that your son was already coming in? Like, could that be a possibility?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why that happened. Like, it's like we said, like, I don't have to know, but I do find it, my mom still finds it hysterical. She said she was even like, I mean, that's the even funnier part of the story. So I admit this to my mom, and she's like, are you sure? Like, you can't undo that. I'm like, what kind of a like future grandmother talks like that to her daughter? Like, and she's like, oh dear, you really need to, like, maybe wait for the martini to wear off. Like, wait a while. Don't pull the goalie. And I'm like, goodness gracious. And she said, no, you were just your whole life, like, you didn't want to play with baby dolls. Whenever a child walked in the room, after you were a certain age, you would leave. Like, you don't think babies are cute. You don't want to, like, hold your nephew. Like, you don't like children. And I was like, I know, that's why this is very uncomfortable. I still don't want children.
Oh,
So I don't know. I mean, that's just the universe's plan, I guess. I don't have an active dislike of children anymore. I will tell you that. Because they're not my problem. They're someone else's problem. My only problem is my own child. So that's fine with me. He's pretty great.
okay. We probably should. I mean, if you're watching this, then it passed the editing stages. But thank you, Dixie. And I mean, I swear, what happens with me is I'll get a client in for an initial intake, which is 2 hours, whether it's on Zoom or in person. And generally, it seems like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're easy to talk to. You ask great questions.
My ancestors were the lanes, Irish, the McLane, and the lane is the street. And I did enough ancestry work to realize my ancestors were innkeepers. And if you were an innkeeper before television and radio, you had dang well better be a good storyteller, have good naked dancers, good musicians, you know, entertainment. Because
And be able to cook.
and be able to cook. So my ancestry is a natural to be a storyteller, you know, because of my Irish lane ancestry. Living
I
on
love
the
that.
lane. So, and you, just to give you reflection, I don't find a lot of women that find that really good balance between masculine and feminine, but God, you are an embodiment of both, and what a delight. Like, I don't use the word delight a lot, but we need to use that word delightful a lot. Like, what a delightful conversation, you know? Delight of the light.
That is a great word. And one of my favorite people, thank you, by the way, that's a tremendous compliment. One of my favorite people is a gal called Amy Jones, who is a therapist. She did it, man. God love her. She and I are unlikely close friends because she is this super liberal San Francisco, you know, Jewish gal, and I'm the redneck, but she actually found on the side of the road a shirt that said Dixie Delight, and she bought it. And here's why that is a little crazy, because it has a rebel flag.
Really?
And I mean, I just, when she gave it to me, I was like, I can't believe you like paid money for a Confederate flag. Like, isn't that against everything you stand for, dear? And she's like, I had to buy it for you. I'm not wearing it in public, but like, so I don't know. I thought of that shirt. I still have the shirt. It's some 20 years old, but I appreciate that very much.
So how do we reach you? We reach you through your website, favorfat.
Yes. So favorfat.com is my health coaching practice website.
Okay.
And one can buy a signed copy of the book there or on Amazon. And then the social stuff is all linked on the website at the bottom, just like you do with the link tree, etc. So I can be found there. And I have a podcast also called The Nourishment Mindset. It's on YouTube as well until I get kicked off. And that'll be like a day of celebration because I know I will have accomplished that feat. And if people want to receive, like, it's just twice a month. It's favorfat.substack.com. So that's how people get the articles that I write for places like Sisley River Press or the podcast, that sort of thing. So that's my Substack. It's all kind of housed there.
Okay. And the one thing we agreed to plug SeleneRiverPress.com.
Yeah.
Your book's also for sale on there. And bless you, Stephanie Anderson, and all the beautiful people over there at Selene River Press.
Yes.
That I've never met, but hope to meet someday.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Danielle there is awesome. Her whole crew is just terrific. And I agree. So don't go to my website to buy the book. Go to Selene River Press. That's a holistic health website, and it's tremendous. And you write for them as well, right?
Yeah, I have I'm more hit or miss than you. There's some backdrop around that, but we'll go over that another time.
All right.
Anything in closing you'd like to leave people with as we end our conversation?
Well, I think what we were talking about earlier, if you're not making time to just sit on the front porch and watch the cars drive by, you should find some quiet time in your daily life, even if it's scary. It's okay to be scared.
Thank you, Dixie.
Thank you.